holding very still without being rigid. Just observe whatever is arising in the mind stream, in the six sense fields, including the mind, thoughts, memories, emotions, feelings, perceptions. Just observe. If you can, make no comment. If you do spontaneously start talking to yourself or commenting, then just observe that as soon as you can. Whatever arises in the sense fields, see it as your object of meditation. Don't maintain it, just return to it. Just observe. Just observe. Please come, those of you in Zendo, please come and sit over here on each side of me, and where you can see the computer screen. And those of you on Zoom, please turn toward your computer, and if you can, get in such a situation where you can see the painting that is on the computer screen. And I'll conduct you in an exercise called opening the eye mind. This is something that I began working on over 60 years ago when I was studying at the Art Institute of Chicago. And it's been slowly coming together in the form of different kinds of exercises to help us, you could say, kind of sidestep the difficulty we have with a thinking mind. Sometimes when the thinking mind is there, it covers up. We look at something and we cover up what is there. We're not able to actually just look at something and just use our visual awareness. Instead, we look at something, we begin to examine, analyze, conceptualize it, and judge it, and so on. So this is an exercise that will help you reprioritize the situation. You don't get rid of your thinking process. The idea here is just to not be interrupted by the natural bias that thinking, opinions, judgments, evaluations, conclusions get in the way of something when you're trying to just look at something. This is also true in the other sense fields, but that may be your experience to work with it in a different way. This painting in front of you is was painted in 1971 by the New York School painter, Philip Guston. I believe he passed in about 1980, 81, somewhere in that area. He's been gone a while. And he went into, just a little history, he went into complete abstraction called Abstract Expressionism, which did some very beautiful pieces in that during that time, during the 50s, early 60s. And then he went back into figures, went back into using forms that resemble forms. In this case, he has some, looks like Ku Klux Klan hoods in front of us. He did a few of those paintings for several years. And so the idea here is to encourage you through doing these exercises that I am going to guide you in to help you disengage, not completely. We're not getting rid of the thoughts or the processes that are used to great advantage in lots of other areas of our life, to think about things, analyze things, come to conclusions, evaluate, compare, and so on. This area, we just are trying to perceive directly just with the eye consciousness. So first, I'd like to point out that in this painting, which is called, do you remember the name of this?
Cornered.
It's called Cornered. So we have two beings kind of facing each other. We have something looks kind of like red bricks in the background. Off to one side, there's a stick. It looks like it might be in the hands of this one being. And there's something looks a little bit like a can behind that stick. And on the right-hand side, there's some kind of a little box. Not sure what the representation is other than it's like a box. Down in the bottom, there's two hands, one on each side with apparently some kind of fingernail situation on the fingers. Then going up to the hooded figures, these look like hoods, and looks like there's some stitching or something in them. So there's not much happening here as far as content, other than what you are taken in by your speculation about why the bricks and why the stick and why these hooded figures and what is this all about. So there's not a strong story here. He's helping you a little bit with the title, but I would like to go into the actual visual presentation of what this is, see if we can't understand more deeply what the artist, this Philip Guston, was creating here. So we'll start out with what I call the eye spot. So the eye spot is an area of the painting that is, if you drew a line from one corner to the other, the top right to the bottom left, or the top left to the bottom right, would form an X. And right in the center is, if you look between the two figures, the very lowest, well, let's call it a brick or a piece of a brick, is a red spot with a little black kind of a smudge on one side. that is actually, that little red area is right in that center of that painting. So that's your eye spot. So this is what you're going to put your eye focus on. You're going to look at that, and I suggest you do that right now. And also, as I will say many times probably during this exercise, this is about awareness. This is not about success. There's no success. There's no failure. There's just awareness. So if you get a little lost, remember that if you're aware of whatever is happening, even if it's a sense of failure, there's still awareness. So this is just an entry into the spiritual path as it shows up as visual consciousness. So again, coming back to the eye spot, this little red dot at the bottom, the lowest brick between the two figures, the red spot, look right at that eye spot. And if you do wander away to one side, not a problem, just return. Don't endeavor to maintain or hold on to that spot, but you might have to return to it countless times, 50, 60 more times, and I'm looking at this for 5 or 10 minutes or more. So just return to that. Again, awareness, 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 not accomplishment. As soon as we start accomplishing this, immediately signals this thinking process that you can come and get, collect some credentials there. The ego is all about that. This self-centered aspect of consciousness does not want you to see much. It does not want you to see this because if you see this is an entryway, a visual entryway to the ultimate nature of reality. Don't believe anything I'm saying, but you could consider it. Since I've been doing this for a long time, you could consider it. So everyone, look at the eye spot. Now, with your peripheral vision, as you look at that eye spot, I want you to, without moving away from the eye spot, when I say without moving away, it doesn't mean you might not glance the other direction to see what I'm referring to, and then go right back to the eye spot. Always return to it. Looking at the eye spot on the left side, your left side of this painting, there's that little shape that looks like possibly a can or something. There's no label on it. I want you to just move your peripheral awareness to that. So you're looking at the eye spot, but your peripheral vision is over there. It's kind of like looking out of the, what do they say, corner of your eye. Kind of looking at that, just like you could look way beyond that to things that are in your room without looking directly at them. So go to the left eye spot. I mean, go to the, with the eyes on the eye spot, go to the left. I'm going to call it a tin can. Now, as you're doing that, looking at the eye spot, your peripheral awareness is on the tin can. Now, I'm going to ask you to move your peripheral awareness, that same awareness, without moving from the eye spot, if you can help it. Move it to the right side where the little box-like shape is, just slightly higher than the can is on the picture point. So now go to that. So I'm going to call that the box. I'll call the other one the can. So eyes on the eye spot. Now go to the can. Peripheral awareness. I go to the box. Peripheral awareness. Go to the can. Peripheral awareness. Now go to the box. Now, as this rotation back and forth between these with the peripheral awareness happens, notice if anything else, anything inside the two hooded figures or the red bricks or the kind of crude hands that are at the bottom part of the painting, notice if any of that kind of pushes its way into your awareness. Not invited. You're looking at the eye spot, and you're moving your peripheral awareness over to the can and back to the box, then to the can, into the box. Notice if, while that peripheral awareness from one side to the other happens, if other parts of it, the bricks or the hooded figures or shapes inside the hooded figures, or the black shape that seems to be in the face of the one hooded figure, or the eyes on the other, the long elongated black lines that seem to be eyes in the figure on the left. Notice if that changes. Notice if something happens there. Let's do that a few more times. Eyes on the eye spot. Go peripherally. Go to the can. Now go to the box. Now go to the can. Now go to the box. And again, awareness. It's about awareness of what happens, not success. So if your eye drifts away from the eye spot, just return it and do the exercise again, or do it yourself for that matter. Now, as you're looking at the eye spot, I want you to put your awareness peripherally on everything that's red. Not pink, not white, not black, red. So you're actually looking at something that's red, but you notice that it's quite expansive around, going straight up and going off to the right and somewhat to the left in different areas. Everything is red. Not everything that is very light pink. Put your awareness there. Now put your peripheral awareness while looking at the eye spot. Put your awareness on everything that's a little bit darker pink. Now put your awareness peripherally while holding to the eye spot. When I say hold, I'm just saying look at it. I'm not saying grasp onto it or clench it. You don't have to maintain it. Have a very soft touch with that. Eye spot is being observed, and peripherally you're seeing everything is black. And then again, notice anything that happens into the awareness. Again, it's about awareness, not about just seeing everything as black and nothing else. When you go to everything that's black, other things in this picture plane have been, I'm going to use the everyday common word, balanced, or brought into equanimity in such a way that it doesn't do away with the image of two-headed figures or bricks or hands or a stick or a can or a box, but orchestrates this in a way that you can see its overall symmetry and balance. Even though it's asymmetrical, there's a kind of symmetry that happens that is in consciousness that doesn't just necessarily mean that things are equal on each side. While looking at the eye spot, I'm going to do something here that is a little different than I've done before. We're going to observe something a little bit differently. I'm going to ask you, as you're looking at the eye spot, to focus your awareness about a foot behind your computer screen. In other words, you're changing your focus. You have two eyes, and when they come together, the focus goes on this eye spot. You see it very clearly. But if you look through the computer screen behind that, then you have a natural gaze that is not differentiating using focus to the eye spot. So you tend to see everything all at once. You can also do another version of the same thing by focusing your gaze halfway between your eyes and the computer screen itself. That also takes everything out of focus quite a bit. Again, it's about awareness, and it's about fundamentally appreciating or seeing the amazing balance that is in this particular painting. And this is an astonishing painting. All of Guston's work is way above and beyond as far as balance and other fancy words we could come up with, I suppose. It's pretty amazing. I've been looking at his work for many years. Well, eyes on the eye spot. Now to a little bit different orientation here. Everything that is square all at once. Notice how you can just operate in your consciousness with an intention, and then all the square forms just come forward. And some of them come forward almost saying, am I square or am I just kind of a rounded? Do I have too many round edges, or it's that kind of nebulousness that is quite amazing. Now, notice what happens, this next instruction. Notice what happens in your mind when I give you this particular guideline. Looking at the eye spot, go to everything that's green. What happens in the consciousness when I say something like everything's green? Can you find some green? If you find some green, then you found it. If you don't, then maybe you think there's no green there. It's about awareness, not what arises in it. A powerful teaching that goes back thousands of years. Now release the gaze and the focus on the eye spot, and just, it's called a random spot. Just wander all over. Look at the top of their hoods, look at the box, look at their fingers, just wander at your leisure, so to speak. Wander all over and look at all the pieces and parts that this eye spot focus has kind of prevented you from examining a little bit on their own. Look at the little form that looks like a club. There's some fingers, fingernails. There's his signature is at the bottom right. Got little lines going through in different places, kind of texturing those hoods, and also lines going through their apparent shoulders or coats that they have on. And if you haven't counted them yet, there's 17 bricks. Actually, I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't know how many bricks there are. So now, going a little further, come back to the eye spot. And you've wandered around a little bit. Now you'll notice that this is awareness now. Notice now when we do this exercise, because you've actually been able to look at some of these parts of this rather abstract, but still figurative painting, you'll notice that things might stand out differently because you looked at them more closely when you examined those. But now we're going to the awareness part of the exercise that spreads out. So looking at the eye spot, go to the club it seems to be coming out from behind the figure with your peripheral awareness. You can glance at it directly and see what it is, and see it looks like there's a couple of dots on it, top and in the middle, and then go back to the eye spot. And now just try to reach it, stretch the awareness to it without looking at it directly. As you do that, notice what happens to anything else in the painting. If there are other shapes that are kind of just, it's almost like your awareness is pulled to the other shape by virtue of the relationship between that which you are endeavoring to stretch your awareness to and the very nature of the painting itself, which has a kind of equilibrium that was brought about by this Mr. Guston. So now we're going to go the other direction. We're going to go between these two, go to the left, and the three red brick shapes that are there on the side, on the back of that one figure. So focusing on the eye spot, move your awareness to the red bricks behind that figure. Now move your awareness to the club. But without moving from the eye spotting, if you can help it. Now move to the can. Now move to the red bricks. peripherally, of course. Now move to the white box. Now move to the club. Now move to the small rectangle down where the finger shapes are, a couple inches above the bottom of the painting. Just peripherally, just go there peripherally. You can glance at it, move your eye spot to it just for a second to see what it is, where it's at, and then go right back to the eye spot, and then stretch your awareness peripherally to that. So you're looking at it with your peripheral vision. When you do that, notice that the eye spot itself, the awareness of the eye spot actually is drained away because that energy is going into that dark rectangle. But your gaze is still on the red spot. You're just not directly looking at it. Very interesting area of consciousness that works in that way. You can do this all the time. You can do it in your everyday life. You can do it when you're sitting at the kitchen table talking to your guest. You can move your awareness around in this way all day long. It's a wonderful, engaging experience that takes you out of the grasping formation that happens up when one is operating out of open fear, as the ego does, and puts you right at the kitchen table. Timeless, completely timeless, choiceless, completely choiceless. Now, while looking at the eye spot, gazing at the eye spot, move the awareness to all the rest of the bricks that are in between the two figures. Just notice that kind of a distorted V shape there. Be aware of all that. Now go to that black rectangle towards the bottom that I mentioned a moment ago. Move your awareness. Don't move the eye spot, but move the awareness to the black shape, the rectangle, and then to all the bricks above the eye spot. Go back and forth a few times. I'll leave you to do that, to stay on one longer or shorter than the other. Now, as you're gazing at the eye spot, move the awareness quite a bit this time. Move your awareness to the weight of your body, how your body feels on your chair or your cushion, or even your feet if you're standing up. This is an awareness practice. Awareness is everywhere. So you're using a kind of peripheral vision that goes away from the eye spot to some extent without really relinquishing it. You're still looking right at that. But your awareness is on the weight of your body. While gazing at the eye spot, look at everything, be aware, move your peripheral awareness so you see everything that's blue. If you don't see any blue, be aware of its absence. This is a kind of awareness that is very powerful. I'm not telling you a joke here. I'll count to 3. And I want you to close your eyes and see if you can remember what you're looking at. But before I do that, make sure your eyes are right on that eye spot, not shutting down on the peripheral awareness. The peripheral awareness might be taking in everything that's white as you're looking at that center area, that lowest brick between the two figures. Counting to 3. 1, 2, 3, close your eyes. Now, this is awareness, so aware of what shows up in memory. How much of that can you bring back? Or are there pieces of it? Have you noticed that you can actually kind of see the eye spot? Because you got very familiar with it. That is connected to the thinking process very closely. I'll count to three and you open your eyes and go back to the eye spot. 1, 2, 3. Awareness. Has anything changed? Is there something different? Is something showing up by contrast that you weren't noticing or aware of before? So my intention here with teaching this, and actually 60 years ago and working on this for many, many decades, is to help, first of all, help myself see more clearly what's hanging in the Art Institute of Chicago or any other museum. Why is that here? I didn't want to hear an explanation. I wanted to see it myself. And I did. The painting in the Art Institute of Chicago was the painting by Picasso, Portrait of Sylvette David, which is still in their permanent collection. Absolutely stunning painting. So my intention, again, I would like to go back to that, is to help you make the transition between the thinking mind, which wants to interpret everything, over to the visual consciousness, opening the eye mind, opening the eye, so you can just do this with the eyes, with a visual consciousness. What's been done here is not about thinking particularly. And let me say it this way, I can't promise anything, but astonishing experience awaits you to look at a painting like this, or paintings by Matisse, de Chirico, Salvador Dali, realistic painters. It doesn't make any difference if they're good painters, and doesn't make any difference whether it's total abstraction or whether it's a figurative work. Just amazing the way the balance can show up here. I'll take some questions if there are some. Yes, sent you. Why don't you come over? Let's go ahead.
It seems like I need your guidance to go into it.
Yes.
On my own, I just get stuck. Is that like a lack of intention? What is the importance of the instruction?
I think it's just lack of practice, because it's a pretty overwhelming. The simple one to do would be find the eye spot in the center of any given painting, and then move from, like in this, it's very simple to say the tin can to the white box. If you just do that, you might have to do a lot of it. I've done a considerable amount of this kind of exercise, and now it's been many years, so if I look at something, I don't do any exercise. I see the entire painting all at once, and I see everything talking to everything else. I don't need to do any eye mind, but I can come into a room, see a painting I've never seen before, and it immediately, it's as if there's a person standing there talking. It's not like that. It's just as if. I'm just saying that it's really talks to you, and it's powerful, and it's possible for you to receive that. But if you have a lot of judgment or thinking happening, then we tend to protect ourselves from that, because it's with our thoughts and ideas. And so this is a way of slowly having some kind of training where you transition over from thinking about everything into the sort of just really seeing it. It's just like being able to smell or see really well, or taste. So simple, I would just say use that one exercise. Find the center of the painting, find something that doesn't have to be exactly the center. I actually measured this and found out that lowest, between the two figures, that lowest red spot is exactly in the center of the painting. Now, whether Guston decided to do that or not, consciously, I doubt it. I think he just saw, the way his paintings look, it looks like he just did it with his visual consciousness. Not much thinking was going on. You think too much on this, you'd start correcting all kinds of things that are wrong. I mean, not pictorially wrong so much, but like, this has a smudge over here. That doesn't work. You have to take that smudge out. More, you have it. So to go along with your question again, you can do this. You can actually look at any painting. I'm not saying it's if it's a painting that's not particularly well balanced, it might not be all that pleasant or rewarding an experience, should we say it that way? But if it's a masterpiece, which this painting definitely is, then it's worth it to spend some time. This gentleman spent his whole life just dedicated to visual art, to painting. There's a very good biography by his daughter called Night Studio. If you have an interest in going any further into what that was like. Further questions?
Are you bowing?
Yes.
What do you mean by balance? Bowing.
Let me wait for people to turn off their phones here. So when I say balance, I'm saying the balance is not exactly, maybe equanimity or some other word. I don't know what it is, but it just means that everything in there is brought into balance or equanimity in such a way that it's not recognizable by the thinking mind. You can't see that kind of balance. But you can, it's like music. You can, when it's visual, you just look at it until it begins to show up as nothing in there separate from anything else, although it's separated. But if you see it as it is, the one thing in there, the little box, if you look at that box on the right-hand side, and then you can reach from that peripherally and reach to the eye spot and see the eye spot. If you know that, if you look to that eye spot with your peripheral vision, you'll see everything else. The bricks, the two hooded figures and everything start to show up in such a way that eventually, not right away, when you first start doing this practice, it can strain your awareness muscles quite a bit. So it can be uncomfortable to do. Did I get close to what you're looking for there?
Not yet. I guess I'll have to keep looking.
I highly recommend that you practice without practicing it. As I said, I've been practicing it for a long time, 60 years. And it's only been the last, for about 40 years, about the last 20 years that I've been trying to do this as a class. I might have been teaching it a little bit before then. I try, and now working on a book called Opening the Eye Mind, which will come out hopefully someday. It's in the works. It's just about how to do this and the instructions. But I've done, I don't know how many of these classes like this I've done, but I don't know, maybe hundreds of them. Yeah, both at Museum of Modern Art, Metropolitan Museum, Art Institute of Chicago, Detroit Institute of Art, Kalamazoo Institute of Art, and in people's homes with the paintings they have, and here in the monastery, we've done OTM quite a bit. Any other questions? Please don't hesitate.
Michelle Bowing.
Yes.
I have a question regarding the mechanics. At least I'm an alternator, meaning I can't focus my eyes together on a set point. I can focus one eye or the other, not both at the same time. And I have a lot of peripheral vision. And when I try to focus both eyes at the same time, it is very uncomfortable and it doesn't work. So have you encountered someone like me before? I'm not the only person, but do you recommend any workaround or?
I do.
Okay.
And I see what you're saying. And I would say, since you are here in the city near the monastery, at some point you and I could talk about that so that I can get a closer idea of what it is we're working with your eye focus and so on. I'm sure there's a way of doing this that could be helpful to you to further use your eye consciousness to see rather than just think about everything. So yeah, let's talk. I think it's possible to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ken's on buying.
Yes, Kenta.
You put a lot of emphasis on balance, and you obviously love the paintings that have a lot of balance, but it seems like that's almost in direct opposition to just seeing. I mean, balance or unbalanced, it's a very relative thing. So
What's your question?
my question is, why does balance matter?
It doesn't matter. It is
Oh.
totally, throw it out. It's just a word. It's just a concept. And if I use a concept, you use a concept, we're probably not even communicating. So it is, I would say it this way to address what you're saying. It could look like it's totally out of whack and out of balance, but it feels like it's in balance. So it's about a feeling that is engendered by looking at something that is laid out in a certain way that could look very disparate, very all over the place. And I know who I'm talking to. I've seen your artwork, so you have a natural sense of bringing things together in such a way that the forms, the shapes, the colors all talk to each other. You don't have to use balance. Use a pile of frogs. The concepts are worthless when it comes to this. Has to be done visually. And the ego mind, the self-centered mind, does not want to let go of its understanding conceptually of any damn thing. This is an exercise that will help you release that grip. I don't know if it'll help you become a better painter, but because that's something that is, I mean, I'm not saying someone can't improve in their painting, but quite often a person is born with a gift of seeing. But that doesn't mean that you are, that it is impossible for you to train your mind to actually see better. Some people just have a natural ability to do that. Usually if they have it, they can't explain it. They wouldn't even, I don't have that. So therefore I developed this exercise over many years and got so I could really understand what visually and emotionally, what was being addressed by the painting of Sylvette David by Pablo Picasso. Absolutely amazing painting that when I first saw it, I thought, what the hell is this doing in here? Why would they put this stuff in here? So I wouldn't even use I'm just using balance because it's a common everyday word. That here's something that if you just glance at this, it does looks like everything's out of whack. They don't look like real things. Even the bricks look like just red blobs with a black line around them. There's not much realism happening here, so that doesn't particularly help us. But there's a relationship between everything in here, including the black line on the left figure along the back of that's thicker there than say it is at the bottom. That it needs to be that way because of, to use that word, balance, because of equanimity that is there. You have all these different things happening. Yet if you can you see this all at once? Look at the eye spot and spread your awareness everywhere. So you're looking at the entire thing all at once. This is a way of doing that, is to change your focus and have your focus go behind the computer screen, or a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, or halfway between your eyeballs and the computer screen. It's a way of deliberately releasing fixation.
Depends on buying. Again, I don't understand why a particular feeling or another is important if it's about awareness. I mean, why not just look at anything?
Okay, then do it that way. Do it however you want to do it. I'm just saying that I can't convince you, Kenzan. There's no convincing. This is a visual. You're a very visual person. I've seen you've done lots of exercises that I've recommended to you, and I've seen your paintings, and they're great. Your brother also is a very good, gifted painter.
Depends on buying. You've just often said that it's the content doesn't matter, it's about the awareness. And yet in this exercise, you're putting a great deal of emphasis on the feeling or the effect of the painting as it regards balance.
I think that's a big mistake on my part. I'm going to stop it, just based on what you're saying. What I'm saying is misleading you. I'm not going to talk about it that way anymore. I'm just going to say, just look at it. Use these exercises. I'm not going to tell you what happens. I'm just going to say, look at the center and move the awareness this way and that way. It's that simple, and it's very hard to do. And the paintings you do, you're a natural. You don't have to do this. You have a natural sense of putting things. Do you know how you make the paintings look the way you make them look? You have any idea how you do that? Do you?
It feels good.
Well, I rest my case. In fact, I'll rest two cases right on top of your head. Two cases of Coors. I'm just saying it feels good. So you're already doing what I'm training myself to do, and a lot of people who cannot do this. But if I had one of your paintings here, which I've already asked to purchase from you, I would use one of your paintings for this as easily as I would. I'm not saying your paintings need to hang in the Museum of Modern Art necessarily, but they're extremely good. Not complimenting you. I don't compliment anyone. I'm just saying they're very, very beautiful. They're very the painting, especially the first two that you sent me reproductions of that you painted. I think you painted them for Shelley. And so those are very, very beautiful. I could do eye mind on those. If you ever want me to do that, please bring one of them over here. I won't keep it. You can have it back. But you are quite often people there that have a natural ability to this. Eye mind doesn't make any sense to them, but it does make sense to people who are blocked by their thinking process. Apparently, you're not. More if you have it, Kenzan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Augie bowing.
Yes, sir.
On my screen, the painting is about 6 or 7 inches high. I'm wondering how far or how close roughly should I be from the screen?
Get a bigger screen, get a bigger screen, get a bigger screen. So you should be, however you can see the entire rectangle, that's good. Just, you might have to sit a little closer to it. I think you could do it, maybe not postage stamp size, but you should be able to do it okay.
Augie bowing. I mean, I don't see anybody on their screens as close as I seem to be. Should I just keep trying to get closer maybe? And
well, Augie, if I were there sitting in front of your screen, I probably could help you with that, but I don't think we've ever done this before, have we? So
you can also go to tate.org and type in Guston cornered.
Yeah.
And view it on the website.
Don't need a bigger screen.
Huh?
Still might need a bigger screen.
Yeah, you still might. How big is your computer screen? Hello?
You're muted.
diagonally, I've probably got a 16-inch screen.
Corner to corner? Yeah.
But you and the images are on 1/3 of it. The painting's on the other 2/3.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'll keep experimenting. Thank you, Bowing.
Well, I'm looking at a smaller computer right next to this one that's probably roughly the size of yours, might even be smaller than yours, and that should be sufficient to do this exercise. It doesn't have to be gigantic.
Augie Bowing, you seem to be several feet away, so should I back off several feet then?
No. Don't think so much, Augie. Just look at it.
Cayenne bowing.
Yeah, go ahead.
How does consciousness find symmetry in the apparent asymmetricalness of this image, bowing?
I'm very, very highly motivated to say it in this way. It finds it through peripheral awareness, and peripheral awareness is everywhere. It's happening. Peripheral awareness is everywhere. As I look at the screen, I can see everything in this room. If someone makes a move, I will see that. So it finds and I hesitate to go to the word balance because it's not exactly that, but it finds the appropriateness of everything as it is. And to see that in a rectangle like this that was created by Mr. Guston it's just impossible to describe that, because it's not a conceptual or it's not something you can describe. I'm not saying you couldn't write a poem about it, you could, but the experience of what I'm seeing based on what I've been doing for a long time it goes way beyond the objects that are there. The objects that are there are important, of course, but the feeling that comes out of it is very, very powerful. And it will be missed if you just get stuck on this shape and that shape, and this doesn't look like a box, and that doesn't look like a can. Or why is this area of the painting distorted? Why? Those kinds of things. So this is experiential. It's about awareness, and there may not some kind of balance may not show up. As I said, I hesitate to use that kind of word, because then we start looking for the symmetry or the balance. And so this is why it's probably better for me to pay attention to what people are asking me, and really, not push the experience of things, but to emphasize the awareness, peripheral awareness. That's what I'm emphasizing. Have an eye spot, then peripherally deliberately move your awareness around. You don't even have to do the patterning that I'm doing. I just needed to do that for myself. I also have one that Kayun, that you know about, that's called a spiral, where there's a process where you move your awareness around, starting at the center, and move it out in an ever expanding spiral until you reach the edges of the painting. And I'm not teaching that here, because it's hard enough to do it on a computer, or on a full painting, let alone on a computer. It's because everything is so small on the computer. It's just this is a structured way of moving your awareness. You could say it has some relationship to the ASAP teaching that I give sometimes, called alternating sense awareness practice, where we move our awareness from how our body feels to what we're looking at, or visual consciousness. Then we move it from there to what we're hearing. Then we might move it from there to how our skin feels, or our clothing feels. We might move it from there to our thought process, but not give it much time other than just touch on that, then immediately go to a sense of sound, immediately go from sense of seeing, which gives us what? It spreads the awareness out, so the awareness isn't focused on just thinking, just judging, just evaluating, just opinions, just conclusions. Or it's not focused on just how something looks or how something sounds. Moving it around is the idea. Go ahead.
Do you go first?
Are you doing you do?
No. Oh, yes. Naveed bowing.
Naveed.
When I'm gazing at the eye spot, at times, some part of the painting and sometimes the whole room around me seem to disappear and reappear again.
Yes.
What is happening there? Bowing.
It's just awareness. And when I say, I don't mean to be dismissive, but once we start doing this kind of process, we realize how much you could say, kind of missing by focusing on things. So we're just we're going through a training process that allows our awareness to be more dispersed. So we're not missing quite so much. We might not be including it or gathering it up in the form of understanding or conclusions, but there's a lot happening in the world that we totally miss because we are so concentrated, sometimes just by an opinion or just by a belief will stop you from seeing the incredible vastness of this life and of being a living being. Most people, I would say this, and not that I sit around and chat with billions of people, but most people are so locked up in their beliefs, their ideas, their opinions, they don't even realize how astonishing consciousness is. They just think they are this person named Jim Smith, and they work here, work there, or they're an accountant, or they do whatever they do. They have an identity and they lock down on it. And this is just another way, opening the eye mind, just another way of working the consciousness, just like Shikantaza or mindfulness practice is slowly introducing you to the nature of your consciousness without necessarily locking down on the beliefs, opinions, emotions, feelings, and so on, and also not pushing them aside. Yes, sir.
Question, does using this I-mind technique and pulling away from the thinking mind help one to see or understand unconscious themes in
Yes.
paintings better?
Yes, it will, but I'd like to say it's not about pulling away. We're doing this in such a way that the thinking mind has trouble. The thinking mind has trouble with peripheral vision. Because if I'm looking at this and I'm aware of this over there, because it's so dispersed, and it's an experience. I'm looking at the computer screen, but I'm right now, if I look at the Buddha, I can see you. But as soon as I'm looking at the Buddha, but as soon as I focus peripherally on you, the Buddha starts to disappear. So it's the nature of consciousness that I'm interested in working with, not a conclusion of being right or not getting rid of thinking. Although a feeling of that being less important might show up, that, thoughts are fine, but they don't get to drive the vehicle anymore. They can be a passenger, but they're not in charge. I promote awareness, consciousness only. More?
No, thank you.
So,
Do all of the techniques that you've taught in opening the mind apply to every painting? Like, could you do the spiral on this, or?
okay, I could. It would be easier if it was a big painting, and that's it's a more irritating kind of thing to do, because then you actually have to do a lot of thinking in the process. We use an analog typeface to move, say, from 12 to 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. You're using that in order to get you to go around in a spiral. So, but yes, you could use, some of them work better than others, depending on the lighting. Like, there's not many colors in this. So, and that's where I kind of came up with the idea, say, look for everything as blue, because you don't see it. And what is that? That's awareness. It's not failure. It's always about awareness. But the thinking mind, the processing mind, the judging mind, the fear-based mind is looking for success and failure. So if I put a prize there, if you can find any blue in this painting, I'll give you $20. You probably say that isn't enough. You see what I'm saying? We tend to evaluate and use that. And so what this process is endeavoring to do is to get you to see what is in front of you, not see what is in front of you, what it means, or how much value it is, or the story about it, although there are, of course, stories.
Is there any attempt to minimize the meaning that shows up, or that look for meaning? Even
I wouldn't do anything with it. Just keep it. When I say keep, I'm just saying stay with the exercise. At least you can, when you stop doing the exercise, you can do whatever you want. But like what we're doing here is we have an area we're focusing on, and we're moving the awareness to different parts of it. I can say, look at this painting and say, keep your eyes on the eye spot, and now be aware, or move the awareness. Everything is white. What happens is you immediately see there's a big pink and black hole right in the middle of the white. Or maybe you don't see that. So I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm not trying to get you to even appreciate this. I'm saying that you can use this kind of a process to go deeper into what is in front of you visually. You can do this on a person's face. You can do it on a painting. This happens to be a lot easier. Person's face is in motion all the time. Do you have one question?
Sokuzan, there's a gray area to the left of the black rectangle at the bottom. And I'm just wondering what is going on with that area in relation to everything else, if it just does not show up for me unless I move the eye spot over to the right. It just,
Where do you move it to?
to the bottom right corner, like anywhere along those bricks on the right, the gray will show up in my periphery, but it doesn't elsewhere.
So what's your question?
So is that saying something about the relation of that? Spot
What gray area are you talking about? You might have to get up and actually
Right
point.
under the eye spot.
No, not for this.
It is directly under the eye spot.
Okay.
There's a kind of greenish, I want to say greenish or yellowish.
Are you talking
polka
about
dots
the
in it.
rectangle that has a slight radius on one end?
Yes,
And has a green area in there?
yes,
You know if that's green or not?
I don't.
What about it?
I'm asking if there's something about the composition of the work that would cause that spot not to show up.
You mean not to show up? You never looked at it?
Well, only if I realized after the exercise that it was there, but it still won't show up for me even knowing it's there unless I move my eye spot. Just, maybe that's just me or my eyes. I don't know.
I'm not following you exactly, but I would say that whatever's happening to you is an awareness, and I wouldn't leave what you're aware of for a conclusion about it or a meaning. What does it mean? Just notice that happens. I've been looking at this painting for a long time. I'm seeing things that I've never seen before right now. I'll tell you one of them. One of them in the two hooded figures, I'm going to call it, and one has a black, long, like a window-like face, and the other one has two slots for eyes. And the one that has a black window-like face that has a darker pink hood on. If you look right at the base of that, where that finger is standing up right under it, and you move to the right, there's a pretty bright red area right there. You see that? I hadn't noticed it before. I mean, it didn't stand out as a separate area to me, but it does now. And on each side of that, there's a white area on each side. You can go through and pick out things individually like this, and then come back and do the exercise, and then see what happens to those things when you do that exercise. This is about awareness. It's not about anything else. It's not about some kind of conclusion about the whole thing. It's not about necessarily seeing some kind of balance, though you may. Yes.
Sokuzan, do we have blind spots elsewhere that are similar?
My whole life is one big blind spot. And how do I know? I'm looking at it myself. I'm much more aware of my blind spots now than I was 30 years ago, let alone 50 years ago. Yeah.
Sokuzan, when you say you're much more aware of your blind spots, do you see what's in the blind spots, or you're just aware that
I just know that there's blind spots. There's no way you can look at this and not ignore all of that. And when you're aware that wherever you look, you're ignoring everything else, you're aware of a blind spot. But that doesn't mean you can suddenly get eyes all the way around your head like an octopus. Go ahead, tell me octopuses don't have eyes all around their head.
Actually, I was going to tell you we do.
Go ahead and say that.
We do.
You do have a. Okay, that wasn't one of my blind spots. Thanks for helping me. Sorry to be silly about it, but I'm saying it's very much about awareness, not about success and failure, right and wrong. It's not even about balance or imbalance. These are all things we invent. Even postmodern artwork, postmodern music and all that is about taking things that used to be thought of as totally imbalanced and then putting them together in such a way that you've got to say, sounds crazy, but there's something balanced about it. Paintings of Jackson Pollock, the music of Shostakovich. When you first hear it, it's like it's just jarring and shattering, but then it's something about it, his way of putting that together. It just has a sense of balance to it. I don't, maybe there's a better word, equilibrium or equanimity or other fancy words that are appreciative of the relationship between things. More?
Sokuzan, is there something egocentric about even saying that there is a blind spot?
There's any time you open your mouth that it is an egocentric. So what's the difference? If you believe the ego, if you believe all of that, but if you see it's an illusion, then everything is self-liberated. It's an ancient way of saying that it doesn't mean nothing happens because you're vividly aware of everything, but you're no longer positing this is more important than that. You're no longer prejudiced. You're no longer trying to control this or stop this or start that. You're not have some tiny oligarch in here that wants to be in charge of everything, which sometimes gets dumped on the world, as we've seen. Yes.
There was a question on Zoom from Deb.
Deb, okay.
That she asked, is there a time limit that's better to do this exercise?
I think it's pretty subjective. I would say I would strain yourself, but maybe if you're doing this on your own, maybe 10 minutes or something like 15 minutes, because I'm doing this, and this has been, what, an hour since I've been talking about this for about an hour, I think, wasn't it? Should we close?
I'd like to hear more from Kyle.
Kayun, you have more?
Kayun bowing. I'm just wondering how we can include the content in terms of emotion and the obviously like loaded imagery here in the practice of OTEM. You brought up at the very beginning that these are clan people staring at each other, and so that's hard to kind of whisk into the background. Bowing.
So you're a writer and you're an artist. How would you approach this? Would you? It's very risky to go in that direction because we start leaving OTEM for meanings and social situations and all of that. It's just like music sometimes can be called, given a title that has to do with some social thing that's going on, but the music itself is just music. So this is just art, even if this is like the raft of the Medusa, has all kinds of drama in that painting and all kinds of stories. So you could look at every image in there and say, what happened to him? What happened to her? What's happening? And so on. So you can do a lot of that. So, but I'm happy to invite you to help us with this. If you see there's social commentary there, you can do that a little bit, but it's kind of going away from opening the eye mind. What I would say in regard to what your question seems to be is you bring your own understanding of the insanity of the Ku Klux Klan. You bring that to this, and then this comes back at you and shows you what this is. I think if you look at some of his paintings, you'll see little Klansmen. They're like little cartoon figures that are in little tiny cars driving around to show the absurdity. Would be the closest I would get to a story about the content. But now that I've said that, could you say more, please?
Kayun bowing. I'm just curious in the way that we include the weight of the body, how that's any different than including whatever might naturally rise up in terms of narrative. Bowing.
I would say include that also. You could even specifically go towards that. You could actually make that an aspect, just like I sometimes say, be aware of the back of your neck. Be aware of, I've actually done OTEM practices where I say, remember the last dream you had. And now come back to, as you're looking at the eye spot, go to that dream. Now come back to the left side of the painting and the tin can. Now go back to the dream. So my idea here is to exercise the awareness as much as possible, not particularly interpret content, even though this content is obvious. These are insane people who put hoods over their heads so they could go out and murder people that they thought were a threat. And I never heard I never read anything where Philip Guston, not that he didn't, where he explained why he painted in this way. He often used images that were just ordinary things, like the heels of the whole stack of heels of shoes stacked up, or bricks, something like this, just meaningless kind of objects. Of course, these hooded figures are not particularly meaningless in terms of the social situation that was going on. Not only back then when he was alive, but even way before then. When
you're bowing, even though I've seen this before, when I first walked in here and looked at the computer screen, it looked like a pink marshmallow fluffy vest.
That's what I thought.
So
I think that's what he started with.
is that, and it keeps shifting depending, it's a little harder to see that with the larger image, but the smaller computer screen. So I'm finding myself going back and forth between the two. Is that?
So this is something I do. There's other exercises where I've called it an alternate image, where if you find something showing up, quite often in a painting, you'll see, not that someone deliberately hid another image in there, But if you find that you can rotate between that, you can alternate between awareness of that image and then awareness of what it looks like. It looks like that the artist intended to demonstrate. Those balloons are unreal.
What balloons?
Well, that one, I think the orange one was real, but the rest of them were fakes.
Deb Bowing.
Yes, yeah.
Sokuzan, does it matter if I see the image the way that you're describing it, or just see it as I'm seeing it?
It's all about awareness and how you see it, or how I see it, or how the way Kayun is describing to bring in the dynamic that is about the social thing that was going on there, the terrible prejudice and so on that went on and is still going on. So it's your experience. I'm just introducing this exercise not to say, oh, I'm seeing this great thing that you're missing. I'm just saying this is a way of expanding or extending your awareness that you may not have thought of. I thought about it over 60 years ago because I was so perplexed by why I could not understand why this painting was in the Art Institute by Picasso. I felt like I knew that I could just trust the authorities, so to speak. But if you went on a tour and people talked about paintings, I don't know if you've ever done that, quite often they just tell you about the painting, about the artist and the time and when they painted it and what school the painting was, or what particular phase of their painting career they were in, and so they were in their pink period or their blue period. And it's not that that's not valuable, but it doesn't tell you anything about the painting itself. And that's what I'm endeavoring to do. And that's what I did many years ago. I decided I had to see what was in front of me. This is about 12 years before I started sitting practice of meditation, which was in 1973.
Sensu Bowing, I was just noticing I missed the beginning of this, and I didn't know that those two figures were Klansmen.
Yes.
So when I was looking at it, I saw these two being like things with the tops of the hoods being their heads bowing outward.
Mhm.
And I was really enjoying looking at it. And then as soon as you mentioned that they were Klansmen and those were their faces looking at each other, it became really grotesque to me.
But see, this is awareness. This is amazing. Thank you for contributing this. It was almost good that you came late. So, I mean, so you could have that kind of an understanding or awareness of it, because it's always about awareness, not about right and wrong, or even figuring out what it is. So does everyone see what she's talking about? Like the two figures kind of facing away with the top of the hood as being their heads, but kind of the not really seeing it as them as being a Klansman's heads. But yeah, that's interesting. Shows you how affected we are by content and memory and concepts. Very, very affected by that. Manipulated by it, as a matter of fact. Anything else, essentially? Have you done some of the exercise where you look at the eye spot and then you move to the can or to the white back and forth with the peripheral awareness? Okay. I think that's the thing I would want to emphasize, is just do that with it. All of the other talk around it is very important. It's also about awareness. But I think if you want to see what I'm interested in, is to get you or anyone, when you come in and look at a painting, is to find a way, and this is just a technique for moving the awareness. Find the center of the painting, move the awareness different. You can just move the awareness around it without looking at anything directly, and then go back and look at everything directly, and then come back to the spot and then move your awareness around in a spiral and circles, back and forth, left and right. Will help you see. Might take time. This did not show up for me 60 years ago right away.
One more question on
You have one? Can we have one more question online?
Cayenne bowing.
Go ahead, Kane.
In the seeming sloppiness of his gesture, the more, I don't know, there's something about even in the sloppiness, there's a kind of confidence that comes through. How do we live our lives sloppily and with confidence, bowing?
So I think it's necessary through, and I'm very biased here, through the awareness practice, the sitting practice of meditation, which I've been doing for a long time. I'm saying to eventually realize you do not have control. To think you have control over things is, I'm not saying you can't pick up your coffee cup without dropping it, maybe. I'm not saying you can't walk from here to the kitchen and have some kind of control, but there's very little control. You have no control over what happens in your mind stream. A little bit, but only enough to satisfy that part of the mind that thinks there is somebody, the ego. So the confidence you're talking about is called unconditional. It's not concerned with success and failure. It's not that it doesn't see it, like two things moving back and forth. Sure, it sees it, but it is not gambling on anything, betting on that, not speculating. It's powerful, and it's tied into, as you've heard me say a few times, it's tied into a fundamental understanding that nothing is separate from anything else. If you think it is, you'll go to war with this and go to peace with that. And this gentleman here, I'm not saying he was an enlightened being, but he certainly worked with his mind in a very concentrated and sincere and genuine way for many, many years. And I'm not sure what happened with his consciousness when his body fell apart, but I think that the intention here was so powerful, showing up in these footprints that he left behind called paintings. His intention is so powerful. He was not about to settle for any kind of half-assed stuff. He needed the truth. And if you look at his paintings from the 1930s on, you can see how he went through transitions. It was not about selling paintings, although his paintings did end up being extremely valuable, because that confidence or that sincerity which showed up there to others, art dealers mainly. And of course, this painting, you probably couldn't touch this for millions of dollars. But confidence is a good word. Just like the fingers that are down at the bottom and the little dark area there, not to mention the dark area and the matte and the pink, the long pink black area like a window in the hood. Just powerful. I don't know what else to say about it without leading us back into some kind of a evaluation of everything. So, but I highly recommend the exercise. You can do it very simple. Find the center of any painting, this one or any other. Find something on one side and on the other side. Rotate your peripheral awareness back and forth, and notice what all the other things in that particular composition. Eventually, they all will get on board. Eventually, you won't be able to see anything but the entirety. It just takes a while.
Bowing. What is the confidence of the artist? Bowing.
What is the confidence of the artist?
Confidence in this artist, I can't speak for him, I never met him. The confidence is the intention to see it, the inspiration, the intention to see this. This is an overwhelmingly beautiful painting, regardless of what you think of it. So the confidence is not in someone's ability. The confidence is in the intention to see it. It's unconditional confidence, and it shows up. These are the footprints he left behind on the journey he was on, painting after painting after painting. As I said, you can read a book by his daughter, who was not particularly happy with him because he wasn't particularly a good father. He just devoted his whole life to painting. Called Night Studio. Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sorry, there's one more question.
Okay, I'll take one more offline.
Fareed asks, should we rotate our eyeballs?
You mean take them out and put them in different? Fareed, where are you at? Rotate our eyeballs. I'm not sure I follow the question.
I mean, should you say that we from the eyes center to the periphery rotate our
No,
awareness? Yeah.
I see what you're saying. So hold your eyeballs still right on the eye spot and just move your peripheral vision. Like I can look right straight ahead, but I can see my hand moving. That's peripherally.
Okay.
And I can see, look, and I can move this and it's peripherally, but I don't look over there at that. But you could just, if it's too difficult to move the awareness without looking at it, you can look at it just briefly, just see where it's at, what it is, the object that it is, then look back at the eye spot and then just stretch your awareness so that you're looking at it out of the corner of your eye, so to speak, rather than you're moving your eyeballs. So no, you wouldn't move your eyeballs other than what I said, just to take a quick glance to give you a little bit of confidence that you can continue to stretch your awareness. Did I get to it? Is that it?
Very boring. Thank you so much. Yes.
You're welcome, sir. We're good. There's going to be a bell. And, yeah.
Yes.
May the merit penetrate into all places so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. San Chi Shi Song Sa Mo Ko Sa Mo Ko Sha. The 10 directions of 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita.
Gingerbread.
We will take about a 5-minute break to reset the Zendo before evening service.